and welcome to another Wolftime gaming video. Today I'm going to be painting up some more Star Wars Legion minis in the guise of the ARC Troopers. Now these guys are absolutely fantastic. They're the elite of the clone army, and I've been really pleased to get hold of one to paint up. Now these guys are my sons. I've only got the one to actually show you how to paint, but the idea is he'll be able to watch this video as well and also be able to paint his ARC Troopers, and using a few different colours dependent on their ranks and that sort of thing. But I'm going to be sticking with the white armour with a few little grey bits on there and sticking with a red colour for this ARC Trooper. Before we get started on the painting though, as usual, let's get that kettle on. Okay, so let's get started now. As with all the models that I paint, the first step, once you've got it built of course, is to give it a really good base coat, base spray. Now I've used the Games Workshop Grey Seer for these because it's absolutely perfect for painting white armour. It's a really sort of like light grey sort of a colour. It allows you to see all those details really nicely, and it's very thin, meaning the contrast paints work perfectly with it as well. But now that's done, we'll move on to the next stage, which in this instance is Apothecary White. Now this is an absolutely fantastic contrast paint. If you watched any of my videos recently, you know I've painted Director Krennic. I've done some other bits and pieces with this white, and it's perfect it's really good for getting the really good details on your armor. Now especially when it's these sort of models. Now these Star Wars Legion models are very highly detailed, so it drops into all those recesses really nicely and adds in that shade that you essentially then don't need to do any more to if you don't want to. Now as you can see, I've done the whole model now and I've gone over the whole thing. Now the next step is to paint the visor. Now I spoke to my son and he wasn't happy with having black visors for these guys and wanted a light blue, sort of a glowing feel. So what I was grab some Sotek green from an old Lizardman army that I had left over, and it's really good for these visors. It looks absolutely fantastic. Have you ever seen the novels, some of the Star Wars novels? You've got this bright blue sort of a colour, and it looks perfect for that. Now the next stage is all the recesses in the armour. Now these are traditionally, you look at any of the Clone Wars series or the actual films themselves, you've got those black areas within the recesses of the armour, very similar to you've got with your Games Workshop Space Marines as well. So I'm following basically a very similar style to what I've done in the past with those, where I've got a little bit of contrast paint, namely the contrast Black Templar, and just drop that onto all those recessed areas. Now you can see I've also doing the weapons with exactly the same thing, and what I'll do, I'll dry brush a little bit of silver on later in the video, which you'll see, to actually highlight some of the details, but essentially the black is a perfect base coat to start with those. There's a few little bits on the jetpack as well, just on the bottom of the jetpack that I've gone with the black, but the main areas really are those recesses in the armour. And the next colour I'm using is Games Workshop's Contrast Basilicum Grey. Absolutely fantastic colour, fantastic grey sort of a colour, especially for all these holsters. You've got around the chest area, there's like a raised bit that's over the top of the armour, which is perfect for that. And a few of the pouches and things, you've got like ammunition pouches on the chest as well, and a little bit around the belts and things around his midriff area, around his waist, and it's perfect for all those areas and looks spot on. As you can see here, he's looking absolutely fantastic already. Now what I did note was some of the ARC Troopers have got this light area of grey on the chest plate, so I've actually picked out Dawnstone, which you'll know I've used on my Space Wolves. Now I've got a few tins of this, so I had it kicking around spare, but I had put that on the chest plate and it actually worked really well. And I also used it on the feet, and there's a few other little details that I just dropped it onto there, and it looks absolutely brilliant. It really stands out nicely from the white armour and gives it that more realistic look. Now the next paint I'm going to be using is a contrast paint, and it's the red one this time, Blood Angels Red. Now there's a lot of different sources out there for colours for the ARC Troopers, and essentially it comes down to rank. But I've gone with red with this one just because I've painted the rest of the Clone Troopers red that I've got, so I wanted him to sort of follow suit really. Now my son's going to go for a few different colours with the ARC Troopers, because essentially in the lore the ARC Troopers all have different colours for their rank, and also they customise them as well, meaning they've got a few different markings on. Now I've just picked out a few of the areas around the model, as you can see here, a little bit on the jetpack as well, just with that red paint, just to make them stand out really nicely. You can see here I'm just dry brushing the silver paint onto the weapons. They're the only bits that need the silver paint on, so they show up really nicely. If you haven't dry brushed before, it's a really easy, simple process where you just get a little bit of paint on your brush, wipe the majority off onto a piece of tissue or something similar, and then all you do is pop it on there and it picks out all those raised areas really nicely, and it looks really effective. Now, what I have done, because I've done that, and I've also painted a normal paint on the chest area, which is the Dawnstone we previously talked about, it doesn't really have that shading that the rest of the model has, where we've used the contrast paints. So what I've done, I've grabbed a little bit of Nuln Oil, and I'm just dropping that onto those areas, and also around the belt area, there's lots of little recesses that I want it to stand out a little bit more compared to the rest of the recesses on the model around the armour, that the Apothecary White stood out. So I've actually using the Nuln Oil to draw along those lines, which adds a darker area and makes it stand out really nicely. Now the base, you can see I've done it separately because I didn't want to spray the actual stand. I wanted it to stay clear. So all I've done is stuck the stand straight on there and whacked a load of black paint straight over the top and around the actual rim of the base. I will say that using this black paint, you can use any black for this. I've used Corvus Black on the base. It's really important before you actually whack any base material down, because you don't want any of that sort of colouring shining through, and the black adds sort of a natural sort of shade if anything does show through. Now I've actually used Martian Iron Earth on the bases here. So as you can see, when the Martian Iron Earth actually cracks, you'll see through those cracks onto the base. Now if we've gone with a tan colour, it looks absolutely terrible. Trust me, I've tried it, it looks horrendous. Make sure you do put a black paint down before you use any of these Games Workshop basing sort of materials and paints, because whenever they do crack, that black looks more realistic. Or at least in my mind it does, rather than white or that silly tan colour that the bases currently are. We went with that because it was a Geonosis sort of colour, and we wanted our forces to be themed around Geonosis, so everything looks the same. So that's it, the model is complete. I think it looks fantastic. Just for that, those few colours we used, we got them on there really quickly. You can see he looks brilliant. I think the red really shows up nicely against that white. I love the visor colour. I think my son was spot on when wanting that blue shiny colour rather than a black. Really makes it stand out nicely and makes it look more realistic rather than just having that dark area like with your stormtroopers. But I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I really do hope you like the way it looks as well. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We've got loads and loads of Star Wars content coming your way, including Star Wars Legion. We've got some Armada bits and pieces that I'm getting ready to paint up, so make sure you do hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.